All right, y'all, what's going on? It's Combo Breaker 99 back with another quick video. All right, y'all, got a little time on my hand and I wanted to talk about this here real quick. I just been online, looking at the different MMA platforms on Facebook, because that's usually where I go now. I don't go to Twitter or anything like that. But I was just kind of looking at the comment sections here, man. And, I saw a lot of people saying they were unimpressed with Valentina Shevchenko's performance against Manon last night. And I just got to ask, man, like, can you explain? Like, how were you unimpressed with it? Like, what were you expecting going into this fight? Like some type of, quick Andrade knockout? It's like I said, man, when you go into a fight with Valentina, expect a chess match, expect it to be very technical. And at the same time, I thought it was a solid high-paced chess match. I thought that Manon was making it a good fight. I thought, Manon was going to be competitive, which she was, but overall, Valentina was still in control, and to see her still perform at this age, I think that is impressive. Like, people, they have to kind of gauge this as far as like how long a person's been champion, the level of fighters, as far as like the evolution of the rankings. You got to look at what she's up against and how she's handling these fighters, and what she's using as weapons. You got to look at these different things, because like, it's like I said, Manon, she's big, she's strong, but this wasn't going to be her fight to go in there and try to go strike for strike with Valentina Shevchenko. That was not a wise idea. Now, it was wise when they started to turn it up and wrestle more and use their strength and be a little bit more physical. But had she done that in her previous fights, then they would have went in here not so alien to it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I was saying. Like, fight like a big fighter sometimes, which I'll talk about in another video here about how Manon should have, made that evolution throughout her UFC career, because beating Rose on the feet, beating Chikagan on the feet is not really going to prove that you can outstrike Valentina, because Valentina, she destroyed Caitlin Chikagan, and she's a better striker than Rose. Valentina is just that much better than all these other fighters. I mean, Rose's style might be pretty to me, like I love her footwork and such, but Valentina is just a way better technical striker and more dedicated striker than anybody in WMMA right now. All right. So with that being said, for me, I was impressed because, again, I'm gauging Valentina on what she's been capable of doing over the past few years and what she's lost and how she's gained more, and that's one of the things I think a lot of these fans of fighters, they don't understand, because my channel is for the fight. It's for the fight fan. If you're a fan of the fight game, come on over here. We can talk all day. But for some of y'all that hate a fighter so much because you love one other fighter, or you're just a fan of a fighter, we ain't gonna relate. We are not gonna relate, because if I say something bad or good about Valentina, you're gonna leave because you love Manon more. Or if you love Manon and I say something bad about Manon, then you'll leave for that. You know what I mean? That's how it usually works. If I say something bad about Weili, or if I tell you the truth about Weili and what she needs to work on, you're gonna leave. I don't care. Kick rocks. All right. So with that being said, I'm here to analyze what went down on Saturday night and what these fighters are capable of, right? And like I said, I was not shocked with the outcome, because I know what Valentina is capable of. Was I going for Manon? Yes. Could she lose in dominant fashion? Yeah. Was she going to get outspeed and outstruck if she tried to go strike for strike? Yeah. It was going to happen, because that's not her. That just wasn't going to work out for her. She just hasn't fought at that level, So seeing how Valentina was able to go in there at this age and still be quick and use different weapons that made her uncomfortable in the past, like, jabbing more and, fight more with her right hand, and just making it a really dominant weapon in this fight and do so much damage with it. I thought that was impressive. You controlling a much bigger fighter that is strong and is hungry, that if you try to fight their fight, you could lose. But knowing Valentina was using all her weapons to always stay in control of the fight and win these rounds, that stands for something. That's what a real martial artist does. Martial artist isn't in there to impress you and try to make you stand up and say, oh yeah, that was great. They went in there and almost got brain damage and still won. No, it's not about that. Like, it's about hitting and not getting hit. And that's what Valentina's whole game plan was in here. She got hit a few times, right? But for the most part, she was able to take away a lot of the aggression and take out the fight out of her opponent for the most part, the best that she could, right? Manon never stopped trying. She was there for 5 rounds, but for the most part, you could see that Valentina was in control in her mind and her eye, and that's what you got to respect, you know, as somebody who watches the fight game. And that's how I saw it. I was impressed with. Just like her last fight, I was impressed with Valentina going there against Grasso and just saying, all right, I'm not going to do this. I know the judges are against me, so I'm going to do this and stick to my game plan. And that's what always makes a fighter like Valentina, even fighters like Floyd Mayweather, John Jones, these type of fighters will always be special because they don't fight for the fans, you know. They make fans because the fans love the fight game. But they also lose a lot of fans and get a lot of hate because they're not there to please you. They're there to go in there and do what they do. Now, if they make fans off of that, then fine, so be it. But, you know, I thought Valentina, you know, she did what she had to do. Manon did have her moments. Had she built off of it, like I said, and, you know, fought like a bigger fighter in the past, maybe it would have been going her way. But when it comes down to it, you're just not going to outstrike Val like that when she's turned on. You know, even, like I said, going back to the first Alexa Grasso fight, Grasso had her moments because of her style, but Val was still winning that fight. But Val got caught slipping in one moment. But since then, you know, she's been on her game, you know, so we can't knock that. Again, you know, I'm a Manon fan, but I saw this coming. I saw this coming if she just didn't go in there and disrespect Valentina the way she did. But, you know, Valentina, again, man, she's just one of those fighters, like, as she gets older, you really can't say she's losing a step because if she does lose a step, she gains another weapon, right? Something else becomes sharper. You know what I mean? Like when her natural speed starts to go, that's when her mind starts to get faster, right? That's when she starts to make that compromise, starts saying, all right, we got to make, you know, our hand-eye coordination even more important. You know what I mean? Like that stays sharper. You know, that's the part of it that gets sharper. That's why she was see everything coming from Manon and able to counter and, you know, bust her up with that right hand the way she did because, you know, even though she might be getting slower than she was 5 years ago or maybe even 2 years ago, she's making up for it because the lifestyle that she lives. And to me, that's impressive.